Imagine pouring millions into lakeside cabins. Picture it. All that hope, those shiny brochures, city folks lined up to escape the grind, only to watch every single cabin sink into mud before a single guest ever checked in. Yeah, that happened. That's the story I'm about to tell you. About a little lake in Tennessee, a developer who thought money could change nature, and one old man who finally said enough is enough. You want a hook? Try this. In less than 2 months, 139 vacation cabins, each one smelling of fresh timber, decks hanging over the water, started cracking, tilting, disappearing into the earth like they'd been built on quicksand. Locals called it karma, some called it sabotage, but everybody, whether they admitted it or not, knew who was behind it, or at least who had been trying to warn them. Raymond Holt, 62, retired park ranger, hands rough as bark, eyes that looked like they'd seen every sunrise since the beginning of time. And on the other side, Karina Duval, sharp suit, big dreams, and no patience for what she called backward thinking. This isn't just about failed business. It's about pride and heritage colliding with ambition, about a stubborn old man who'd spent his life watching over this patch of earth, and a woman who thought she could rewrite all that with enough money and the right marketing. Let me back up a sec, because you gotta understand who these people really are. Karina Duval rolls into Jefferson County in a gleaming black SUV, straight from Nashville, trailed by investors who looked more at home in glass towers than dirt roads. She talked fast, moved faster, promised jobs, prosperity, and a second chance for a fading town. This lake is untapped potential, she'd said at the community meeting, her voice smooth as silk, eyes scanning for a single doubter. Families, couples, cash flowing like it never had. She didn't just want to build cabins, she wanted to build a legacy, her name in lights, on billboards, maybe in the county history books if she pulled it off. But there in the back, arms crossed, was Raymond. The dam, the whole lake, had been his family's responsibility since his granddad laid the first stones back in the 1930s. Raymond was quiet, didn't like crowds, but when he stood up, people listened. "You don't know this water," he told her. "You don't know what it takes to keep it steady." Karina just smiled, unfazed. "Progress can't be stopped," she replied. That word hung in the air, progress. To her, it meant cabins and profits. To him, it meant disaster. Let me tell you something about this lake. The ground around it? Spongy, soft, marshland that could barely hold a fishing dock, let alone rows of cabins packed shoulder to shoulder. Raymond had spent decades learning every trickle and current, could read the waterline better than most men read newspapers. His late wife Lorna used to tease him, "You talk about that lake like it's a person." And he'd just shrug. "That's because it is. It breathes. It shifts. It remembers." After she passed, he poured everything he had left into watching over it. Mentoring kids, planting trees, checking the dam every sunrise, coffee in hand. Karina? She didn't have time for mud or sentiment. She'd done developments before, bigger, flashier, and always profitable. She dismissed Raymond's warnings, ignored the engineers who quietly flagged soil stability. Investors wanted results, and fast. Locals? Well, they wanted jobs, something to keep the grocery store open, to stop their kids from moving away. Some folks were skeptical, sure, but money talks, and when you're tired of struggling, you start believing the person with the biggest promise. Soon the bulldozers rolled in. Day and night, frames rose up along the lake, each cabin as lifeless as the last, driven into ground Raymond knew would never hold. He tried. Lord, did he try? Cornering neighbors at the gas station, speaking at county meetings, reminding everyone. Short money now, long lost later. You know it. Some listened, most just shifted their feet, glancing away. "I got bills, Ray," they'd say. "What else am I supposed to do?" But Raymond kept pushing, even as the divide in town deepened. Old friends crossing the street to avoid a conversation, families arguing at dinner, neighbors whispering at church. And all the while, the lake itself started changing. Waterline dipped lower than it had in years. Dead fish turned up along the shore. Herons didn't come back that spring. To Raymond, these weren't accidents. They were warnings. Karina brushed off every sign. "We're managing the risk," she told Raymond over the phone one evening, her tone polite but final. He hung up without answering. Because, deep down, he knew, nature isn't managed. It's respected. where it reminds you who's in charge. The last straw came with the first collapse. One cabin, then two, their stilts cracking, decks dipping toward the water, mud swallowing everything underneath. The investors started calling Karina in a panic. Workers waded ankle-deep, shoving sandbags under the foundations. Karina barked orders, voice tight with fear. Raymond watched from a distance, arms folded. She stormed over, demanding, "Are you enjoying this?" He shook his head. "No. I warned you. The lake's just showing you what happens when you push too far. We'll reinforce, we'll stabilize," she insisted. "You can't reinforce against greed," he replied. "You can't stabilize against arrogance." The fight wasn't just between them anymore. It was spilling everywhere, into kitchens, into the Rusty Lantern Diner, into the county commission. Frank and June Hart, married 40 years, suddenly arguing in their kitchen. She begged him to tell their grandson to quit the construction crew before disaster struck. He couldn't stand the thought of turning away honest work. Even the pastor at First Baptist slipped a warning into his sermon. The wise man builds his house upon rock. But Karina kept doubling down, hosting luncheons, posing for newspaper photos, telling anyone who'd listen, "Setbacks are part of any project, but these cabins are here to stay." Brochures promised paradise. The cabins themselves stood like fresh teeth along the lake, glossy and identical. Meanwhile, Raymond watched the land crack, the water pull away, the fish and birds disappear. Every night, he'd sit on the dam, hearing his father's old words echo in his head. "Balance, Ray. Don't give too much. Don't take too much. Balance is everything." By September, collapse was no longer a warning. It was happening in real time. And that's when Raymond made his choice. Rain rolled in heavy, 20 hours straight, water slamming the dam, mud churning along the shore. By dawn, 6 more cabins were tilting, their supports sucked down. Raymond went to the dam, placed his hands on the iron crank, and opened the gate. The lake dropped back to its natural level, marshland reclaiming its place, mud swallowing every last cabin that had been built too close to the edge. Workers arrived in shock, boots sucked off their feet, shouting as cabin after cabin groaned and sagged. Karina? She came barreling down the road in her black SUV, eyes blazing, demanding to know what he'd done. Raymond just stood there, calm as the morning after a storm. "I gave it back," he said. Cabin after cabin groaned, with splintering, mud climbing higher. Some people cursed him, said he'd destroyed the county's future. Others saw the ducks returning, reeds sprouting, the marsh breathing again. The sheriff came to the dam in person. "Ray," he said, "tell me straight. Did you open those gates?" Raymond didn't flinch. "Yes." The sheriff sighed. "You know what this means." Raymond nodded. "I know what it means for the lake. The rest, we'll see." News spread like wildfire. Developers' dream sinks as lake drains overnight. Reporters from Knoxville, even Atlanta, rolled into town. Karina pressed charges, called him a criminal on the evening news. Some folks jeered, said he'd robbed their kids of a future. Others stood up in the diner and said, "He saved us." The lake's breathing again. Karina's empire collapsed as fast as the cabins. Investors sued, contractors walked, and the project became a punchline in every surrounding county. Meanwhile, Raymond went back to his routine, checking the dam each morning, boots crunching over frost, watching the water ripple clean again. Not everyone forgave him. Some never would. But as the months passed, more folks started to understand. Jobs come and go, but land, if you ruin it, you don't get a second chance. One day, a local kid, Travis, the same boy who used to follow Raymond around with a fishing pole, asked to write a school essay about him. Raymond just laughed. "I'm no hero, son. I just did what needed doing." "Yeah," Travis said. But everyone else was scared to do it. So what's the takeaway? Nature always gets the final word. The cabins, the brochures, the lawsuits, they all faded, but the lake kept moving, steady as ever. And the lesson? Well, that sticks around too. You can pour all the money you want into progress, but if you forget to respect what holds you up, it all sinks in the end. And maybe that's the real question for you. Me? Anybody listening? Are you chasing profit, or are you protecting balance? Because one lasts a season, the other lasts a lifetime. Now I want to hear from you. Was Raymond right? Or did he go too far? Was this justice? Or just one stubborn old man ruining progress? Drop your thoughts below, argue it out, because stories like this only matter if we actually talk about what's right, what's fair, and what kind of world we're trying to build.